deadlift is an essential tool that cannot be missed out of a strength and conditioning program. For those people who've been told, once again, don't do deadlifting because it's dangerous or it's bad for you, if you could explain to me, how do you pick something off the ground if it drops on the floor without doing a deadlift type sequence, then I'll allow you not to make deadlifting part of your functional movement pattern for the rest of your life. But I think most people, if you drop something, will end up having to do that to pick it up. And if you're doing that to pick it up, then you need to learn how to deadlift properly. It's not that deadlifting is dangerous, it's that deadlifting is done incorrectly. And we now need to look at the mechanics of how to perform a good deadlift. First of all, the obvious solution is, if the object, the external load, is more underneath my center of mass, then the risk and the torque force on the back is less and less, i.e. if I'm using a kettlebell or a dumbbell and I'm picking this up, it's underneath me. So therefore I can keep it very close to my center of mass. With a barbell, it's different. If I'm lifting a barbell and I lift it incorrectly and the barbell gets away from me forwards here, and yes, I've got a huge amount of torque force pulling round, an angular momentum in this direction that I need to get rid of. I also need to understand about midline stabilization to do good deadlifting. You need to look at the video regarding arches and hollows, for example, and about core stabilization, which will really help your deadlifting as well. But needless to say, you need a lot of bracing in this center bit. And you'll hear this a lot on the video, that the idea of what we do with our center is to brace the center, to stabilize it, and to avoid deflection of movement in the lumbar spine and around the pelvis. Okay? But that's more on another video. Let's look at a deadlift first of all with something light that's in the middle of me. For example, I could use this to warm up the pattern. The difference between a squat and a deadlift is a squat is both knees and hips breaking and coming down. A deadlift is very clearly the hip moving back and winding up the posterior chain and breaking here. Squat, deadlift mechanics. Squat, deadlift. To help people understand how they should deadlift, what I often do is I come to a wall, for example, and I will say to them, stand next to a wall, and from this position, I want you to simply move your backside back until you feel the wall. Now what you see here is a parallel shin, and you see that I've come back. I haven't went down, I simply came back over. That's the first movement in a hinge movement such as a deadlift. I can then go forward a bit and try again. Can I still reach the wall? The more forward you go, the more you feel then the hamstrings naturally fire up. I don't have to think about firing my glutes and hamstrings when I make a deadlift. It happens anyway because I'm making this type of technique, and as a result it loads the hamstring. And that's really important to understand in the deadlift. The hip didn't go down, it simply went back. The body was braced and it didn't have any flexion or extension. It simply stayed still. It was just hinged through the movement as I went back over. We can now look at the mechanics of the deadlift. Again, as I said, using it with just a dumbbell allows a lot of the risk element to come out of the movement. Feet are relatively narrow, enough space for the dumbbell to move. First action is I want to feel I'm screwed into the ground, glutes are active, braced core, and that I hinge back. Hinge back, allow the body to naturally tilt. Reach down with your hands. From this point, I'm hinging as much as I can. I can't hinge anymore, so now I need to break in the knee. To collect the weight from the ground. From there, I'm just looking neutral and forward. And then I simply pick up the weight, reverse the movement pattern, stand up to full extension, push back until it can't go any further, break at the knee, put the weight down, keep looking forward, come back up. Push back, break, pick it up, push back, come down, back up. Great idea to warm up with something as simple as that. If you have a gym band, you can really help somebody understand the mechanics of the deadlift again. Simply put the gym band around your neck, stand on the band, in a narrowish stance. And what I'm going to do is now use the band to pull me into the correct form and shape that I need, and hinge back and forwards to get a feel of that initiation of the movement. And again, it's a good warm up. Okay, so let's look at the more complex part of deadlifting on a bar. Because it's a bar, we're unable to have it completely underneath us. But important again is setup. Come in. I want to normally have the bar for me needs to be sort of mid-foot, because I have to allow for the fact that I'm going to end up coming forward a bit. So if you're too close, you'll find that it doesn't work. You just need to be mid-footed. Here we're doing not a sumo style deadlift, but a standard deadlift. So stance is relatively narrow. It allows me to track my knees to the outside without affecting my arms as well. When doing lighter weights, up to whatever, 2 times body weight, I find that I like to keep a neutral, a normal grip, rather than opposite grip. Opposite grip can put a bit of stress through the bicep tendon, so I try to, as much as possible, just have a normal grip. And watch again, from here, bracing, I like to start with this movement pattern here to get the shoulders neutral, and now hinge, as much as I can. I can't reach the bar, keep looking forward, keep braced, let the knees slightly track out, reach for the bar. Now from there, use the bar to pull your shoulders into the correct position, down over a bit. And now from this position, push your feet through the ground. Position 1, come past the knee, up, do not shrug at the top. Hinge back, past the knee, down. All the time, the bar is in line with the scapula and not with the shoulder. So what I mean by that is, I'm not like that with a bar, but sort of this position. That's where the power is. Remember, hanging off the shoulder won't help. You want to use the shoulder blade. So once again, set up, brace, hinge in it, reach, 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 can't get it, break the knee. Now, important, from this position here, I don't want to see that. We want to see that everything comes up together. Common faults. Common faults are that when people lift, they drop forward, the hips come up. Common faults, they try to lift too fast. They come down and pull hard and fast. The slower that you lift the initiation, the first bit of the bar, the better. What I think is good is if you pull 90% of the weight, you'll hear the bar come under pressure, and then basically you just squeeze and the last 10% comes up there. If you pull fast, the weight feels heavy. Okay? So avoid doing that. Common faults, rounding of the back. We want to make sure we're in a good neutral position. I would say most people have the ability to deadlift without a rounded back if they are able to bend forward in a neutral position with the back and reach where the bar would be. Remember, the bar is always higher off the ground because it's got plates on it. So, are they able to just hinge here? It's very rare that people have such short hamstring that they can't get into a position like this. That is a very general description of the deadlift. Please make sure as you put more and more weight on the bar that your mechanics are good, because this can be dangerous if the bar gets away from you. We're normally looking at, for athletes, of about 2 times body weight as a good benchmark of a good athlete who has good mechanics for hinge movements. So today we decided that we'd do a weight lifting day. We've prepped up for heavy deadlifts. So the aim will be to do something like either 5 by 5, or we'll do something like 2 5s, 2 3s, 2 2s in a single or something. We'll decide and see how we feel now. We've really spent about 20 minutes mobilizing, warming up, particularly the posterior chain, making sure that the lower back's obviously prepped and ready, and then I've got a lot of trunk stability as well. So we'll have a look at some of those warm-ups. Meanwhile, this is going to be just a warm-up set for the deadlift, a little bit heavier, and it's going to just be 5 reps. I'm just getting the feel for it in a minute. So I'll not count that as one of the heavy sets. I know a lot of people can get dizzy when doing deadlifting and feel a little bit of a hike in the blood pressure, etc. Just make sure you're controlling your breathing correctly and not holding your breath too long, for example, as you're bracing. Okay, so let's have a look what we do. So because we were looking at doing deadlifting, and there's a lot of posterior chain stuff, a lot of bracing of the core, and also the concern of grip strength, etc. It's going to be good to warm up correctly and warm up the right parts of the body. One of the things I like to do is, I like the Brewster style walks of wrapping a heavy band around my legs, and to get the glutes to activate, I'm just going to simply move across the floor. What I'm doing is actually pushing off this leg and moving across this way. A lot of people do this wrong, and I'll see them actually collapse in as they move across. What you want to be doing is really pushing hard, tracking that knee slightly outside as you move across. If you do this with a heavy band, 10 in this direction, 10 in that direction, you'll find that will get the butt to fire. So because we're going to need a lot of stability around the midsection, this midline stabilization that we'll talk about, it's going to be really important that I prep this core area. And what I've done is I've stuck a band, gym band, just going to pull it out, put a bit of force on it, and then I'm actually just going to hold it out. I'm just holding this isometric hold. It's really prepping me for a feeling of having to have good core strength and core stability. If you hold that for maybe 15 to 20 seconds one side, 15 to 20 seconds the other side, see how that feels. I also wanted to spend some time just warming up the scapula at the back as well. And I find what's a good one is use the rower. And I'm thinking isometric here, so not too heavy of a weight as we're warming up. And I'm just going to roll it in, really feel the shoulder blades coming together, and hold it 15 seconds. Just holding this position, release it slowly, repeat and hold again for 15 seconds. This isometric movement will really get you to focus on the stability back there. Here's another one for the lats, to wake those lats up as well. Straight on the bar, set up. You just want to focus on the lats, firing, keeping tight in the body. Again, you can do 50, 20 movements there. So another good one is really get this lateral seam warmed up as well. So I like to grab the band, fix it up, and then just move over to one side. You'll feel it stretching all the way through the seam here, and really open up, get ready for those deadlifts. Come on.